our current standard of care, lomustine, is truly not very active. And in this patient population, I think there is a real opportunity for novel approaches to be better.
Thank you for joining us today for our Virtual Investor KOL Connect series to discuss glioblastoma and CNS Pharmaceuticals' lead product candidate, Berubicin, that is currently being investigated in a potentially pivotal trial for the treatment of GBM. My name is Janine Thomas. I am CEO of JTCIR, and I will be the moderator for today's segment. I am very pleased to be joined by Professor Michael Weller. He is a leading neuro-oncologist and a key opinion leader who currently serves as the chairman of the Department of Neurology at the University of Hospital Zurich, Switzerland, and an investigator in the company's global potentially pivotal study of Berubicin. Professor Weller, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Hello.
We're going to just get started here. I have a few questions for you. Can you discuss for our audience GBM and the patient journey once diagnosed?
So glioblastoma is a relatively common primary brain tumor. It can affect any age group, although most people are, let's say, more mature adults. Range around 60 is probably the most common age for this disease. Most people with glioblastoma are really caught by surprise. They were relatively healthy before and are suddenly confronted with neurological deficits. So they're really not prepared for the diagnosis and that what comes with it. The neurological symptoms, they trigger a diagnostic workup, usually MRI. Then we suspect already what's going on, but the proof really is a surgical intervention that confirms the diagnosis. And then patients have to be confronted with the diagnosis and all the consequences for their life. They are seen by radiation oncologists because radiation therapy is a standard of care. They also get chemotherapy, usually with a drug named temozolomide, for several months, and that is probably the best part of their life because although we tell them recurrence is likely to occur, many patients, many human beings are very optimistic and they hope it's going to be different for them. And then at some point, commonly recurrence occurs, again, with new neurological symptoms. And then in this recurrent disease setting, therapeutic options are limited. Obviously, we try to help patients as best as we can, but we don't really have a convincing standard of care. The most commonly used drug is lomustine, which is what we give with a limited activity. But this is also the time when patients have to be prepared for end of life and also their caregivers, if that has not been done before.
So can you talk further about the current treatment landscape for GBM and the challenges with the available treatments?
Well, I'm afraid the challenges have already become clear. Recurrence, despite all major treatment efforts, is inevitable. And on a population level, if you really take all patients with this disease, the median survival is still in the range of 12 months, even in a very rich country like in Switzerland, which illustrates where the challenges are. We do not cure anybody, and long-term survival is rare. Many patients also suffer from the disease substantially already at diagnosis, which means, for example, that something like, I would say 30%, even here in the canton of Zurich, they don't even qualify for the standard of care because they have serious health issues, neurocognitive decline. Many of them are very old and frail. So the challenge is, first of all, that many of these patients are already ill early on in the course of disease, and then that the treatment is not very effective. And the lack of a treatment at recurrence is certainly one of the major limitations. And that's why we always prioritize a clinical trial over standard of care in the newly diagnosed setting, but even more so in the recurrent setting.
Can you discuss your thoughts on Berubicin and its potential to provide a solution for the GBM community?
The mode of action of this drug has been around for a long time. The mode of action, the type of DNA damage that this drug is doing makes sense and has not been fully explored because also we didn't have drugs with a good pharmacokinetic profile that also would achieve sufficient blood-brain barrier penetration. And we are still talking about a tumor that can be partially hiding in the brain. And there is this famous blood-brain barrier that has a good purpose, namely to protect our brain from foreign substances, from drugs that shouldn't go there. But for the tumor treatment, the barrier is a problem, and reaching the tumor cells is really important. Then also, I mentioned before, we do not really have compelling data that any standard of care is very strong in the recurrent setting. So there is a reasonable option that new drugs could be better. Would like to add that there is a distinction of glioblastoma patients by a molecular marker called MGMT. And if this MGMT status is positive, then the patient is more likely to benefit from first-line, but also from second-line chemotherapy. And in those patients that do not have this positive MGMT status, our current standard of care, lomustine, is truly not very active. And in this patient population, I think there is a real opportunity for novel approaches to be better.
I appreciate that, Professor Weller. So grateful for your time today. And with that, this concludes our Virtual Investor KOL Connect segment featuring CNS Pharmaceuticals. I would like to extend a huge thank you to Professor Weller for joining us today. I'd also like to thank our audience for your interest in our KOL Connect series. As a reminder, CNS Pharma trades on NASDAQ under the ticker CNSP. And if you like what you saw today, I encourage you to visit cnspharma.com for more information on the company, to sign up to follow the company to receive their alerts, as well as follow their social channels to stay current on the latest information. You can also visit virtualinvestorco.com for a replay of today's event, as well as our latest segment and events calendar. I'd like to wish everyone a great rest of your day. Thank you.